Great. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending what time zone you're in. Thank you so much for joining us for day 2 of our LinkedIn Live series, Skill Development with Extended Reality Technology. And today we'll be hearing insights from some of our partners, small business and education leaders in the space. And we're so excited that you have joined us today. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Jen Giffels. I use she, her pronouns, and I work for JFF. I'm joined today by my colleagues Lucy and Zara, and we're bringing you this LinkedIn Live series to help dive into a little bit more detail about how extended reality technology, so whether that's augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, how that can help workers and learners, businesses, and education providers with skill development. And we're really excited for our lineup today. But before we dive in, I will do just a brief recap in case you were not able to join us on Tuesday to give you a little bit of background before we dive into our conversations. And what better place to start than with JFF's mission? So many of you might be familiar, but for those who are not, Jobs for the Future drives transformation of the US education and workforce system to achieve equitable economic advancement for all. And today, we are talking about specifically how extended reality technology is a way to help us get there. JFF Labs in particular works with technologies and innovations like this to help advance this mission. And we envision a future in which all employees at small businesses and all small businesses themselves have access to leading edge training solutions, just like many of their larger corporate counterparts. And that's why we focused specifically on small businesses and a lot of our XR work that you'll hear about today. So again, seeing XR technology as a promising way to enable both skill development, advancement, and employee voice, as well as the bottom line gains for the businesses themselves. So seeing them very much work hand in hand. And today, before we dive in, I'll share a little bit about some of the recent work we've been up to. And one of our partners in this space is Meta. And together, we are both really believers in the power of XR to how it can transform learning and work. And we've done a series of projects and pilots that show how XR solutions can really catalyze economic advancement, both by addressing learners and workers, as well as the businesses and education training providers that are supporting them. And before we dive in, I'll just share with you 2 of the pilots that you will hear about today. So the first one that we recently concluded was a pilot with 21 small businesses in a variety of industries and regions across the US. And with those small businesses, we implemented one of 2 solutions, so either Tailspin or Embodied Labs. And those modules in the virtual reality headsets helped train employees on certain skills. So whether that's core or soft skills, or with Embodied Labs in some of our healthcare industries, we had more healthcare specific skills. And again, excited to dive into a little bit more of those region and industry insights with you today. And you'll also be hearing today from some education leaders because we implemented another pilot with 8 community colleges across the US. And that pilot was to design and develop a new augmented reality curriculum or course at these community colleges. And for that, we used the Metaspark platform and curriculum, and we worked with the colleges to design their own 8 to 12-week course for students to learn and get to experience AR skills in that platform. And through these pilots and through our partnerships, this allows JFF to kind of dig into deeper insights for small businesses, for XR software providers, policymakers, and wider, education and workforce stakeholders in general. And that's why we're really excited today to bring you some of these insights. We'll be focusing in on different regions and different industries. And we hope that this inspires you in your own work and maybe raises questions that we want to connect with you on. So without further ado, let's get to some of those insights and presenters. And first up for today, for Thursday, will be Matt Hansen, who is the Executive Director of the Home Care and Hospice Association of Utah. And he'll be talking with Sarah Monpour, who's a Senior Advisor at JFF.
Hi, Matt. Hi, everyone. My name is Zara Monpour, as Jen just mentioned, and I've had the pleasure for these past couple of years working very closely on this pilot the pilot that we work most closely with small businesses across this country, and met my guest here that I'm talking to today about a year ago. So really excited to have Matt here today. Thank you for being here with us today, Matt. It's great to have you. Really excited for the audience to hear your perspective and why you got into this work with us, and your more general perspective on XR. But before we do that, I'd love to hear for you to introduce yourself to the audience and to tell us a little bit more about Home and Hospice Association of Utah. What do you guys do? What kind of work are you involved with? And what's your role in that organization?
Wonderful. Thank you, Zara. No, I appreciate the invitation to be here today. As you introduced me, I'm Matt Hansen. I'm the Executive Director with the Association for the Home Care and Hospice in Utah. We are a trade organization for home health, hospice, and personal care industries for the state. The Home Care and Hospice Association predecessors have been around since 1999, so our organization has been around for a long time. And I came on board to help the two organizations merge in 2019. So I've been with the organization for about the last 4 years. I have a clinical background as a physical therapist.
Wonderful. So can you tell us a little bit about, we met you, as I said, about a year ago, looking to connect to small businesses across the country, specifically healthcare and caregiving businesses is why we came across you. And can you tell us a little bit more about the actual types of businesses and caregiving organizations that you serve? What do they look like? What is their profile?
Sure. Oh, thank you. So it's difficult to say if there's a typical profile of the businesses that we represent, because they really range in size, from anywhere from a home care agency that would be what was referred to. I don't like the term, but sometimes they refer to them as non-skilled, so more personal care, going in and helping somebody to get dressed in the morning or to make meals for them, get bathed, get them ready for the day. And organizations may have as few as a dozen employees. Up to medical or Medicare certified agencies for home health or hospice, kind of end of life care, that have thousands of employees. So there's a large range, but our providers, provider members, are home health, hospice, personal care agencies. So it's an organizational membership. And beyond that, it's kind of difficult to find really anything that they all have in common, I should say.
That's the world of small business and just
It
business
is.
in general, right? That we're all operating in. So in the past, prior to meeting us and through this pilot, have you provided training support to these organizations? Is that something that you all do on a regular basis? What kind of support specifically do you provide?
Yes, education is probably the primary service that we provide. We hold webinars in both an annual and in-person and virtual conference. We also belong to a couple of different continuing education networks, one that provides free education for our members and another that gives them a discount on special courses.
Okay, great. So when we came across your profile, we sent you an email and you responded pretty quickly. You got it immediately. And we had a great first conversation, and we dove into the work pretty fast. Can you tell us why that was the case? What was it about this opportunity that really appealed to you? And did you have any prior exposure to this type of technology, to XR, VR technology that sort of played a role in that?
Yes, yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. It really piqued my interest. I love learning about technology and how it can be used to serve or solve old problems.
Hmm.
I'm always looking for ways that we can expose our members to opportunities at a low entry point also. And I saw this pilot as being one of those ways that we could do that. I've had a little bit of experience with VR just on my kids' headset. My wife homeschools our children, and it really opened my mind to the possibilities of it being something that could be used for something other than games, right? When my daughter was doing an anatomy lab and she was actually dissecting a frog, and she had me put on, she's like, "Dad, check this out." And I looked at it and I said, wow, there really is an educational component to this. As an organization, we like to support good causes also that can help to improve healthcare overall. And I really saw this as something that could.
If I remember correctly, you attended our demo, right?
Mhm.
And that was really where things started to roll for our partnership and sort of being able to bring other businesses into the pilot. And we had asked you, just so the audience knows, we were looking for small businesses specifically, and that Matt felt in his network could benefit from this particular pilot. So can you tell us, what did you think? You just mentioned that you said it has a lot of potential, but what did you think specifically with the demo that you saw of Embodied Labs after you saw it? What did you think it would do for the organizations that you serve and the populations that they serve?
Well, I definitely saw the potential in the use of the technology. The dementia care training demo that I saw, the Embodied Labs that I participated in, really increased my empathy for those who are living with dementia. It was very enlightening, yet frustrating at the same time. The experience when I was in the place of someone who has dementia, right, and some of my senses and even the comprehension of the conversations that were occurring around me were impaired.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's something that, is very, very difficult in a classroom setting to be able to convey, obviously, and even on online modules when you're learning about it. I mean, there are tons of different training systems that talk about dementia, but nothing that really helps to bring you that same type of empathy. And I think that's something that we can't have enough of as caregivers.
Absolutely. I remember the first time I sat in a demo for Embodied Labs. All the hair on my arms was rising, and all of my emotions were in it. It was a very, very powerful experience to go through, and really to be in the body of someone going through those ailments was something very unique that I don't think most people have experienced yet. After the pilot, have you been able to check in with any of your businesses, or have you heard anything about the impact this might have had on those businesses? Do you think what you had hoped would be accomplished happened?
I do. Unfortunately, I'm not privy to the results of the post-pilot survey that JFF did with the participants, and however, several of them did contact me and just tell me how cool they thought it was, and that their employees, that they believed it really did make an impact on them. So I know that it was received very well.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Were there any specific stories that stood out, or any feedback like that you heard from the businesses?
In one case, there was somebody that said one of their caregivers indicated that they have a grandmother who has dementia right now, and that the experience for them was just really eye-opening, because a lot of the times they get frustrated with their own grandmother, right? Because they're not listening, or they just forget, and they're not understanding. And so they've been a little short on patience, which we oftentimes do, right, with family members. With those we love, our patience, I guess, doesn't seem to be as long as it is with somebody else, or even at work. And when they went through this experience, it really helped them to understand it wasn't grandma's fault,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
And it really brought them to tears to feel what they may have been experiencing themselves.
Wow, that's really powerful. And to be honest, we heard that in a lot of different places, and the caregivers themselves, the impact that it had on them, and sort of as we were hoping, the empathy that it gave them for these people's situations. So, as you well know, the healthcare industry is growing exponentially, and caregiving is growing exponentially as the aging population of this country continues to grow and mushroom across the country. How do you think VR technology, or XR more generally, can play a role in ensuring that it grows in a healthy way, that it's better serving the clients that it's supposed to be serving, and that small businesses, particularly, um, that they can participate in this growth as we move in this direction?
Um, yeah, great question. A number of Well, let me break it up a little bit. So first of all, for a small business or for a provider in our space, in home care, for example, I think there are a number of different ways that it can benefit them. One would be employee engagement. So all of us have sat through mandatory trainings where we struggled to stay awake,
Yeah.
or we participated in online trainings that we skipped through at every chance we had, right? Trying to skip to the end. VR training is a lot more engaging, which I believe helps improve learning.
Mm-hmm.
Another benefit could be employee retention. Uh, I believe that people are more likely to stay with an organization that's making efforts to meet their needs, those that break the mold and maybe use some of the latest technology. I also think that VR training can be very cost effective. So there's obviously an upfront cost. However, the same equipment courses can be used over and over again for new employees, and or as a refresher for existing employees. And VR training is very adaptable. I'm still aware of many organizations that are repeating live orientations every time that they get a new employee. That's a
Mhm.
lot of payroll hours. VR makes it fun, it makes it flexible, and it can help an organization save money. Also, it's a differentiator, right? I think if you're going to a potential referral source, or if you're even a potential client, you're speaking to them. I think it's something that you can utilize to really demonstrate that, hey, we're in the forefront and we invest in our employees, we invest in you, right? Because this is specific training that we give them to help them to become better caregivers.
Yeah. And that type of sort of what you described is some pretty quality training overall. It sounds like to me that, I mean, I think it's pretty typical in any industry, but that you guys are experiencing something similar. That's not usually the case. Is that accurate to say?
No, it's not, absolutely. And I think part of the challenge is that, I mean, we're a very highly regulated industry. You know,
Mm,
healthcare and personal care is very regulated. We also have a staffing crisis. And so owners and administrators of these agencies, provider agencies, are always just scrambling to keep up. And unfortunately, what happens is oftentimes when they are doing that, they're just so stuck in the day to day, they miss the opportunities and the new technologies, the new solutions, et cetera, that are on the forefront. So we get stuck in a rut. We get stuck in what's comfortable, right? So we just keep doing the same thing. And unfortunately, that's the case. I mean, there are providers who are using old videos that were originally recorded on VHS recording videos, right? Sometime back in the 1980s, in some
mhm.
cases. And there are a lot of other solutions, but there's a better way to do things now. So absolutely. I mean, if providers are adopting this technology, they're going to be on the forefront.
And do you see, so this type of sort of regulation and these requirements come through policy, I
Mhm.
assume, towards you all. Do you do you foresee that this type of technology would be allowed to be used in that type of training, the required trainings that you all have? Did you see an opportunity already for that in this pilot? Do they have restrictions around that? I'm just curious to sort of what would be the barriers of using this type of technology for that type of training? And do you think we can overcome them if there are any?
No, as far as the trainings themselves, there shouldn't be any barriers at all. Yeah, you know, we have two different kind of areas. We have rules and regulations, but still, whether it's by rule or regulation, statute, or not, it's always changing. There's the state level and there's a federal level.
Mhm.
And so it's the job and the challenge, I suppose, of the owners and administrators to be able to take that information, first of all, to become aware of it, but secondly, then to help their employees become aware of it and train them. You know, how does it impact their job? So to get it downstream. So however they can do that, um, you know, is up to them. So absolutely. I mean, VR could be used in that. And if there are trainings, and again, it's that adaptability, right? That if there are things that could be customized and done for them so that they understand the regulation and kind of a more engaging
Mhm.
environment, then that could be another way to keep them up to date.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, as you know, JFF as an organization, we're a mission driven organization, we're a nonprofit organization. And our mission is really equitable economic advancement for all. That's the
Mhm.
kind of core mission that we have, particularly for those who face systematic barriers in our country. Do you believe that VR or XR more generally, and sort of even just the training that we went through together, or any other use cases for it, could serve those populations in a better way, whether it's from a geographic perspective or just from a sort of the content perspective? Is there anything there that can happen that you think would better serve those populations?
Absolutely. In home care, caregivers are going into the homes of people from many different ethnic and cultural backgrounds. They're also working with individuals of different generations, socioeconomic conditions, religious beliefs, etc. VR can help to educate and prepare caregivers for different situations before they even go into a home,
Hmm.
so that they can be not only aware but respectful of the home and in the environment they're going into. kind of a cultural orientation of sorts, right?
Yeah.
And so we have, I think every state, every region has, unique populations
Hmm.
that it could help to orient them and to gain some cultural awareness and respect.
What specific populations in Utah would you think could benefit from this? Since
hmm
that's where you are. Are there particular populations that you think, uh, I don't know, whether it's in the cities or in the rural areas, that could benefit from this?
I do. I mean, we have, yeah, several examples. We have a very high refugee population. The state has been really good about accepting and making room and creating opportunities for refugees from around the world. We have in the south east corner, particularly of our state, and we have several First Nations reservations.
Hmm.
But the Navajo reservation is huge between Arizona and southern Utah, uh, and very remote. So it makes it very difficult. That's another use. I mean, the technology to be able to maintain contact with somebody, and I mean, maybe we'll have an opportunity in a moment to talk a little bit more about augmented reality, right, and kind of
Hmm.
other applications of XR. But to be able to bring them in closer contact, but the orientation itself, the cultural orientation, we have a high homeless population, as many states or metro areas do.
Yeah.
So yes, I think there are many opportunities. Our Hispanic and Polynesian Islander population. So there's, the world's a much smaller place now, as we're living amongst each other with all kinds of different cultural and ethnic backgrounds. But we need to be respectful of those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so let's shift to that, because you mentioned augmented reality. You mentioned some of the things that you just talked about in terms of the potential around cultural training. What other XR, so including augmented reality, including VR, some sort of mixed reality, what other use cases are you excited about that might come and benefit your business or you personally in hopefully the near future or even the further future? What excites you?
Yeah, well, this is where I get really excited. I'm really excited about the use of XR in training caregivers and healthcare workers in care situations. So again, I have a physical therapy background. And I think of an example of dressing a pressure ulcer, so a wound, right, or some type of wound. There are a myriad of different wounds that could be presented in an XR environment, and
Mhm.
then train the user in both making the right decision on the dressing as well as testing them in how
Mhm.
to care for and dress that wound. I'm also excited about the use of VR for customer relations training. So, for example, it could be used. How can it be used to practice the teach back method, or to train someone on how to work with an upset client, or even personal safety situations? Right, being aware of their environment and what to do if they do feel that they're no longer in a safe environment.
Mhm.
De-escalation techniques, things like that. I'm excited about the use of augmented reality in the home environment. Again, as a PT, if we use the wound example again, augmented reality could be used to look at someone's actual wound and then guide clinical decisions. So imagine what it could be used for in a doctor's office or a hospital, right? As far as guiding decisions and clinical decisions. And then I've conducted a lot of home safety evaluations in the home. So where we go around the home and we look at different, potential safety hazards, or the
Mhm.
way that the home could be modified to make it more safe or more accessible for somebody. So augmented reality could be used to perform the home safety evaluation, looking around the actual home, and then make recommendations on modifications, maybe even providing clients with a cost estimate right there during the visit, during the process.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Safety is a big area, and we're seeing that across multiple industries that this could be used, where people don't have to actually put themselves in harm's way to learn the
Right.
lessons, right, and still evoke their emotions in that process. So we're seeing a lot of potential already for that, and some of the things you mentioned, I don't think they're that far away, to be honest. The way this is moving as fast. So going, you had some exposure prior to us talking and getting into this work together, but not everybody does. And despite what, those of us who are in this, we start to think that this is just something around and common and everybody's using it, but that's really not the case yet. The vast majority of Americans are not using XR technology yet.
Mhm.
And it's only being introduced to them through gaming and through their children, and then sort of that's what we hear about most when we start to ask these questions. So if you were to be able to talk to a business that is thinking about diving into a pilot like this with us, with JFF, or just, on their own, implementing XR technology in some way or another, but is very skeptical of it and sort of not sure that it's the right move to make. What would you say to that organization, to that business?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's a natural sentiment, right? To be skeptical or to be a little bit wary whenever we hear about something else. And there are a lot of shiny objects in today's technological revolution. I mean, it's, where they said that there was a new kind of, it would upset the current environment every, 10 to 20 years. It's happening. They're saying now every 3 to 5.
Yeah.
So things are changing really quickly, and especially with AI. But I encourage people to learn more about it and try it for themselves. Learn about the regulations that are in place to protect a business and its clients. For healthcare organizations, HIPAA regulations still apply. Different companies and solutions are still going to have to be compliant with those regulations. Also learn about opportunities to help to fund XR.
Mm.
There are groups like JFF who are conducting effectiveness studies and may even be able to provide equipment to participants for free, to try it as part of the study. And then I would say, don't go chasing every opportunity, though. Do your homework, look into the organization. There's a lot of opportunities, but be sure not to be left behind at the same time, right? If you do your homework and wade into the pool, your investment could pay great dividends.
Absolutely. That balance is so important, right? Are we moving in the right direction, but not creating chaos, especially in the
Right.
small business context? Absolutely. Well, Matt, this has been a true pleasure. It's been a pleasure working with you this past year. Thank you again for all your hard work in bringing us so many small businesses that we had the opportunity to work with. And thank you for sort of going on this adventure with us. We hope to be able to partner with you more in the future. And thank you for your time today. We really
You're
appreciate
welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
it. Take care.
All right. What a great conversation. Thank you to Matt for joining us and Zara for facilitating that conversation. Again, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put those in the chat at this time, and I will get us transitioned to our next conversation. And for that, please join me in welcoming Sandra Brown, the apprenticeship coordinator at Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College. And Sandra will actually be joined by two special guests, Garrett and Pauletta, who are two professionals who took the college's augmented reality course as students. And they'll be interviewed by Lucy Fernandez, who is a manager at JFF. Enjoy the conversation.
Hi, Sandra. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so lucky to have you. I'm wondering if you could kick things off for us and just please introduce yourself and share what compelled you to be such an advocate at your college for joining JFF's pilot implementing the MetaSpark augmented reality curriculum.
Well, thank you, Lucy. My name is Sandra Brown. I'm the apprenticeship coordinator on the campus of Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College. And what sparked my interest I became interested in offering this was it was something relatively very new to our students in our community, something that they don't have access to, and it may, provide them with a trajectory in their employability skills. So we were very excited to be able to be a partner in this program and share it with our students.
We're so lucky to have you as part of the pilot and to learn alongside you. And I think before we dig into the nitty-gritties around the pilot, I would love, if you don't mind, could you just paint a picture of your region for everyone who's tuning in today? Like, what are some of the strengths of Southeastern Kentucky? What do people get wrong about your region? And what do you wish people knew?
Right. Well, our region is beautiful. We have a lot of mountains, a lot of this time of year. It's very beautiful with the greenery and things that are beginning to start over again. We have a rich culture here. We also have strength in our people. They're resilient. They're not afraid of a challenge. They like to try something new. They have a strong work ethic. Something that, I would like to see different nationally is we have a lot of stereotypes about our region. And with that being said, they're not always true. We do have some probably things that may be true, but for the most part, we have there's a lot more to us than what people see from the outside looking in.
Thank you for sharing that perspective. And so I would love to turn a little bit towards the pilot work that we did together. And could you please share with us what are some considerations to take into account before implementing a new or emerging technology like augmented reality, especially in a rural community?
Yes, it is quite different here in a rural community as far as geographically, we're very spread out as far as our college campuses. We have 6 college campuses, and they are in each in a different county, so they're several miles apart. Also, transportation can be an issue for students in our region. Our connectivity has some issues as well. We're getting better with that. So, first of all, I think you need to have a very strategic recruitment plan. I brought in some collaborations with some local and regional partners that we have here with our college to assist me in recruiting for participants in this program. I partnered with the Kentucky State Chamber of Commerce Talent Pipeline Management Program. In that program, they work with employers and form collaboratives, and within those collaboratives, they use evidence-based data to see what local employers may need or what gaps are being, held in the workforce community. So that person assisted me in casting the net farther than just in our local region. So we were able to bring in a few participants from outside our specific communities as well. I also partnered with a program called SOAR, SOAR, Shaping Our Appalachian Region. And with that, that's an annual gathering where a lot of our services and organizations come together with one united mission of trying to make our region better. So I was able to do some recruiting there as well. So it was very beneficial. Also, you would need to have a very good, high quality instructor to be successful with this program. We were very lucky in that we had one on campus that was very eager to participate and had prior knowledge to some of the AR and some of the programming that goes along with this. He offered the course in a couple different formats, in person, and also multiple sessions weekly so that he could meet the needs of each student.
Mm. Yeah, I can see that being just absolutely critical to the success of a program like this, especially if you're balancing, maybe there are some folks within the college and community who are more familiar with the technology and maybe some who are a little bit more skeptical. So having someone who can set the program up for success is key. And I wonder if you could just really briefly give folks who are tuning in just a picture of what the cohort looked like, how many students were involved, that sort of thing, the nuts and bolts.
Okay. We originally were able to recruit 25 participants, but we had some attrition with that. The final count was around 15 students. So they were varied. Some were employees of local hospitals, local board of education. Some were students. Some were just individuals that were interested, wanted, in the community to try something new. So it was a diverse group of individuals and various skills. But they all were successful with the support of not only do we have a good instructor, I served as a success coach with them as well. So I communicated with them weekly to ensure that their needs were being met. If they had any concerns or needed additional support, we were trying to make sure that we provided adequate, support to remove any barriers they may be experiencing.
And what do you think, from what you heard from the learners, were the key skills that they learned through the MetaSpark AR curriculum? And were they seeing connections to careers off the bat, connections to industries? If so, how?
I think one of the most things were just the technical skills in the area of training in order to convert this to working with their own students if they were involved with students at local schools, and also to providing training with other employees within their organizations. And we, as our workforce division, saw it as a futuristic way of training that may be provided in our own workforce programs.
Mm. And in terms of, or what do you think was perhaps the greatest impact this technology had on the learners? Were there any anecdotes you might be able to share with us?
I think it allowed them additional technology skills in the way that things are designed or delivered. If they did not have a background, it gave them a new skill set to add to the resume and build that repertoire of training and skills necessary to get new employment or take a new career pathway Garrett is a local school teacher. He's a math instructor. He was able to use the skill sets that he learned and expand his current skills with his students. He incorporated the use of the AR headset, the meta set that he received upon conclusion of the training. And also, Pauletta is a technology trainer for a local hospital. So she was able to think of ways creatively and use the skills that she learned to implement some new trainings for her employees.
It's so awesome to see sort of those direct connection points between the AR program and both Garrett and Pauletta's day-to-day job. So I appreciate you sharing that with us and everyone. Yeah, of course. And I'm wondering if, using the Meta Spark curriculum as an example, how did you build buy-in both on campus and in your community? And yeah, we'll start with that. And then I have a few questions.
Well, that was a little tricky. We were a little concerned in the beginning of if we could even get buy-in, because it was brand new to me. It was brand new to our students, our community. Luckily, the instructor that we selected did have some background in this field, in this training. So he was familiar with it and was able to take the curriculum and even customize some of the pieces of it to fit the needs of the students. I had to learn the language of what it actually AR was, and to develop the marketing materials and the discussion with the participants. So it took a little bit of time, but we didn't have a lot of time to turn it around either. So we made some really good quality flyers, spread that around through our community and through the resources that I mentioned earlier, and talked with the students individually and explained to them, what it was, what the benefits were, and they came around and was eager to join.
Could you share maybe a little bit more about what those conversations looked like? Like, what was the kind of excitement you were hearing? What kind of pushback might you have gotten? And then sort of like, how did you approach that conversation? I think it could be helpful for other colleges.
Right. Yeah. I just explained that it was a futuristic skill and that it was a future of work and that it could help them in the fact that, it was be an additional skill set for their resume. And also it was something modern and state of the art. It was up and coming training that they couldn't get anywhere. And the fact that it was free, I have to be honest, and the fact that the participants were receiving it free was a great selling point as well. I did meet with the instructor and get some insight from him on how to talk with the students as well. And he was very helpful in that too.
And
they had heard, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
They had heard of AR. They were confusing it with more VR too. They were just some back and forth discussions on that. And I used the materials that were sent to me from JFF as well to help, send that out to the students too.
And yeah, there is still, I think, some of the confusion around the language. What is augmented reality versus virtual reality versus mixed reality? Right. I'm wondering is there anything that you might do differently next time in terms of securing this buy-in?
If I had the additional resources of having the participants that have already gone through the training, I think they would be excellent to bring on board and even provide testimonials or, do some type of recording or some way that they could meet with the new cohort and explain to them what was ahead of them, what the expectations were, and what the benefits were of it. I think that would be very helpful, sort of like a train the trainer model or something of that nature.
I think that's really smart. It's always nice to hear from folks who have been through it, who have those insights and lessons learned. And kind of on that note, what's a key piece of advice that you might offer to another college or stakeholder, especially in a rural community who is considering implementing this technology?
Well, I would recommend that it's definitely high quality training. There will be positive outcomes for both the instructor and the participants because the instructor learned as well. There were some new avenues that he had not been exposed to. Be prepared to, diversify the way you maybe instruct the course just so that the students, you reach all areas. Some learners are different. We all learn differently. In person, online, and then sometimes one-on-one sessions were held just to, make sure everyone was getting up to speed on that. There were some bumps in the curriculum, but our instructor was able to work through those and work with the students to make sure everything was implemented well.
And so we've talked a bit about getting that that buy-in at the college setting and advice for other colleges and stakeholders. But in terms of touching the community, do you feel like you had to also do some, or do you feel like you had to work to get buy-in from your community as well in terms of implementing or joining this pilot, or was that less of an issue?
I wouldn't say it was less of an issue, but most of our students, some of them were already familiar with some of the jobs for the future training. I forgot to mention earlier, we had also implemented the Google certificate program. So they had been participants in that and knew the success and quality of that. So there were a few that were eager to join just because of that, that was in their past experience. We did have a closing event at the end, and we brought in business leaders and business partners to be the audience for the students to present their capstone projects. And with that being said, there were a lot of community members there, and they were very impressed and eager at that point to learn. Once they saw what could be, what the outcomes were of the training, then was this going to be offered again? Can we participate? Can we put people in? So at that point, the buy-in was definitely there. Again, initially, I would just have to underscore the fact in the beginning, it was something new, and the fear of the unknown, I think, was one of the biggest obstacles.
That makes total sense. And actually, could you share maybe what some of those final learner projects were and what some of the feedback they received from the audience was?
We actually selected 3 top winners, and they were all 3 unique in their own way. The top winner did something as far as it was music related. I can't really put it into clear explanation, except that it was a drum beat, and he was able to, demonstrate how that coordinated with the AR feature. The other project was, like I mentioned, a mascot for the school. When the mascot opened its mouth, it made like a roaring sound, and the students, loved that. The third project was Pauletta, who's with the healthcare agency, but it was around the holidays. So she did a Christmas scene with actual snow falling and that sort of thing, and with a song playing in the background. So they were very high level projects based on the short amount of time that they spent within the cohort. So it was very impressive.
Yeah, and also like 3 very different takes on how you can utilize this technology, which is really cool because then I think it can help folks see different applications across different industries, different jobs.
Right.
So thank you for sharing that. And then also on that note, I think like, what do you think are the key benefits for your region as more XR use cases continue to grow and proliferate? And what impact do you think XR could have on the people who you serve in your both in your community at the college and sort of like writ large within your region?
Well, the main thing it could provide is just an extra skill set and diversify our workforce. As you know, our region's been hit very hard by the declining coal industry, so we have a large unemployment population, and also a lack of some skill sets. So I think from that perspective, and where I work with workforce mainly, it provides them with the opportunity to learn something new and build their skills and become more employable, not only within this region, but maybe even reach it farther, within the nation. They could do something online, design trainings, or design, skill sets that would not be available to them anywhere locally besides, what they've received through this program.
That is the power of XR, I think. And I'm wondering, Sandra, to round us out here, is there any last words of wisdom or anything else you want to leave the audience with today?
Well, I think I would have to say that if you're considering doing this, you should 100% go forward with it. It was very rewarding for me, being the success coach, to see the students' progress and watch them grow and learn and their excitement build. And then even from the instructor side as well. And then it all culminated at the end when they did their closing projects and seeing the excitement in the room. It was just a very rewarding experience for all participants.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you with us, learning from you, and just thank you for being our partner.
Thank you very much, Lucy, for the opportunity and for having me here.
All right. Thank you to Sandra, Garrett, Pauletta, and Lucy. And I will wrap us up. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great 2 days for those of you who are joining us on Tuesday and those of us who tuned in today for our part 2 of this LinkedIn Live series. Recordings will be available soon, and feel free again to drop any last questions or comments in the chat. We can also be reached at labs@jff.org if this series inspired or raised any questions, or you want to reach out for further conversation. But again, thank you to all of our guest presenters and the JFF team for making this happen, and we hope to talk with you soon. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.